Have you fallen into an open manhole recently? Do you find yourself in the company of strangers? Well, then you might very well be in the feature Underground. My name continues to be Hunter Lanier, and I continue to bring you brand new, early reviews of upcoming movies. This time it is Warfare, written and directed by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza, and of course distributed by everyone's apparently favorite company, A24. The film will release in theaters near you, in theory, on April 11th. Before I dig into the movie, I do want to just set the table by saying this is the first great movie that I have seen in 2025, and will surely be one of the great movies of the year. I do also want to preface this review by saying if I sound funny, it is because I have a sore throat. I am currently trying to figure out who gave it to me, so if you come across anyone on the street with a sore throat, please let me know. What I want to start with is actually the poster of the movie, which caught my attention more so than a poster usually does. It is not for the design of the poster or the image, but for the tagline. Everything, and I quote, everything is based on memory. It's an interesting tagline because initially it seems like a boast of authenticity, but then you realize it may be less of a boast and more of an admission. Memory is, after all, not the most reliable source of information. But now, after seeing the film, I can safely say that it is in fact a boast of authenticity, and what's more, a believable one. I do also want to say that before the press screening, there was a short introductory video from Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza that once again stresses the idea that the movie is based on memory. Now, I say believable because what makes Warfare truly unique and what separates it from not only other films set during the Iraq War, but war films in general, is that the story truly is a tragedy of errors. And of course, if you didn't put two and two together earlier, the film being based on memory, this is a true story. And Ray Mendoza, the co-director and co-writer, is actually one of the characters in the movie as he was part of the real life events. So, going back to me calling it a tragedy of errors. As we follow this platoon of, I believe, Navy SEALs, as they're on this mission that's kind of nebulous. You don't quite, there's no expository scene in the movie where someone lays out the mission. They're just kind of they're just kind of on the mission. And you're kind of putting it together as you're watching it. And that's another strength of the movie that I will talk a little bit about later, which is that the movie does not, there's no exposition, there's no hand holding. The movie does not guide you through emotions or ideas or the story itself. It's very hands off in that way, which I very much appreciate. So basically, the story is the Navy SEALs are in this house and they're trying to get out. Because while they were in this house, it somehow became known to the local insurgents that some American soldiers are in this home and let's shoot the hell out of them and blow them up. And as we follow these young men throughout this escape mission, we very quickly understand that these are not supermen. The film does not deify them. It does not make them out to be badasses. The men in this film are little more than boys. Highly trained boys, highly equipped boys, and very brave boys, but still very immature and prone to mistakes. Characters run into the sides of doors. The injured are accidentally stepped on. Morphine is accidentally administered upside down, just to name a few of the least consequential mishaps. And then, of course, the granddaddy mistake, one might say the original shit running ever downhill, is that they're in this war in the first place. These cascading errors don't just give the movie a sense of realism and a unique quality, as so many of these war movies, especially post 9/11 war movies, soldiers are portrayed in a far more capable and flattering way. And that doesn't mean that they're shown in this film as being idiots. They're just shown as being real people that are making mistakes in the heat of the moment. And all of the error proneness of the movie, it does all of what I just said. It adds all of those qualities, but it also adds a dread to the movie because it creates the sense that you following these guys, we're not headed in the right direction. Bad things are going to keep happening based on precedent. Very quickly, I would like to just pass the old hat into the audience there. Throw in all your likes, your shares, your comments, your subscribes, if you're not. Everything helps the channel grow and contributes to the ongoing effort of making talking to you guys my full-time job. Aren't you jealous knowing that I'm talking to other people Monday through Friday, 9 to 5? While you stew on that, let's continue with the review. Another masterstroke that Garland and Mendoza pull off in this movie is the heavy emphasis on the physicality and sensorial aspects of combat. In other words, dying is not the only consequence here. Getting shot is not the only physical consequence. Just as an example, various characters in the film narrowly avoid explosions, sometimes not so narrowly. Now, in another movie, that might have just been a close call. But in this movie, characters get concussed, and the concussion not only alters the soundscape of the movie, which is not something that's wholly unique, but the film commits to it as being part of its DNA, not just being a gimmick. But one character in particular is concussed early in the movie and never quite gets his mind back. For the rest of the movie, he's just a little bit off. He can't quite communicate correctly. He's confused. Even the dust from explosions causes characters to speak hoarsely, to cough, to not be able to communicate well. Encumbering communication in vital moments, even if it's just slightly. At one point in the movie, you're put into the head of the comms expert, who is trying to perform a task while several different voices in his headphones are all yelling equally dire information at him at once. And Garland and Mendoza ratchet up those voices to the point where when you're in the theater, you actually become uncomfortable. Just as you're ready to put your fingers on your ears, the character rips out the cord and everything goes completely silent. As I said before, these sort of sensorial touches aren't entirely unique to the war film genre or even the action film genre, but they are rarely used as they are used here. Not as flourishes, but as part of the film's identity. Just as pivotal to its identity is that this film is a true ensemble piece. Conditioned for the opposite, you spend the first 30 minutes or so of the movie trying to figure out who the main character is, who should I really be paying attention to. But what you find is that each of the characters in the movie, and there are about a dozen that you follow, they each have their own miniature arc and tribulations that exist within the larger mission of get the hell out of here. And you get a real sense of all the disparate personalities that have to come together and function under chaos. Once again, there's no expository scene or chunk of dialogue that tells you about this guy. Oh, this guy's got a girlfriend and a dog. This guy was pushed into the military by his parents. In fact, the disparate personalities you find will sometimes add to the chaos. There's one character, as an example, who is referred to in the movie as having new guy energy that stiffens at the first sign of conflict and never relaxes. When the movie cuts to him, just standing there rigidly, refusing to blink in front of the window, every single time it cuts to him, it fills you with tension. Another character, in a lighter moment, is taking a break and takes about 15 seconds to just stare at another guy, squinting at him as one might at a modern art museum. Not only does that give you a connection to that character, a personality trait that is more palpable and unique than a monologue about his girlfriend waiting back at home would be, but it's the sort of out of place moment that sticks in your memory despite it holding no real importance. that leads credence to the film's mysterious source material of memories. Another aspect of the movie that I thought was really interesting is that even though it is co-directed and co-written by Ray Mendoza, who once again was present at the film's harrowing events, the film shows a lot of restraint. It's remarkably hands-off in an emotional sense. There are no teary-eyed close-ups. There are no leading musical cues. It never tells you how to feel or what to think. Following the cynicism of the Vietnam era and how that war was portrayed in film, the post 9/11 era was far more reverential and patriotic. I would say that Warfare sits somewhere between the two. Warfare derives its emotionality not from valorizing its subjects, but from simply portraying them as young men in danger, which I think is more than enough. As for its ideas, it makes no obvious statements. It doesn't take one step toward a soapbox. Yeah, you could call it an anti-war movie, but that's kind of a boring heuristic. And I don't really even know what that means. Does that mean it's bloody? Does that mean it's depressing? Yeah. Okay, then it's anti-war, I guess. If the film makes any intellectual statement, I think you can find it in the eerie indifference of its final moments. Speaking of final moments, those are all my thoughts on Warfare. Now is the time for you to let me know your thoughts on my thoughts. The movie is not out for some time, so if there are any questions you have about the movie that I didn't cover in the review, just put them in the comments and then I'll respond. As for the reviews coming up next, I am not quite sure. Disney Plus just sent me the new season of Andor. I don't know if I want to watch that whole thing. I don't know if I can muster up the excitement or the enthusiasm. And my Daredevil review didn't do very good, so I don't know if I'll do that. Maybe. If I watch it and it's really good, maybe I will. Regardless, I'll figure out some kind of video to do soon about something or other. Until then, I will leave you with the gentle reminder that every day underground is a good day.